folks, and welcome back to another episode of Friday Night Spotlight, brought to you by 911 Air Repair, your local air conditioning expert specializing in maintenance, repair, and new installations. Well, it is just Tuesday as we are filming our show, and so far a lot of stuff has happened. First, AIA power rankings are officially out for our 2A and 3A schools. 1A is also out, but well, during this time we don't really talk about them. So talking about 2A and 3A, we got to give a couple teams a shout out here. In 3A, Florence is number 1, ALA Ironwood is ranked number 9, and then in 2A, Santa Cruz is ranked number 2. But for the purpose of our show, we are also kind of giving you guys a little plot twist here. Our game of the week is on Thursday night, and we are talking about Chandler, Arizona College Prep, and they will be at Vista Grande. Pretty big deal here. Like I mentioned, AIA power rankings are out for the smaller schools, so we're kind of basing this off of the Max Preps ranking, and Max Preps has AZ College Prep ranked number 1, Vista Grande number 9. So a pretty big deal here. David, what are you expecting from this game?
Yeah, like you said, it's going to be a pretty big game for both schools. Both schools have been really solid so far this year. Just kind of depends on who gets the edge in this one as well. For me at Vista Grande, it all starts and ends with Brendan Hunt at quarterback. He's been pretty well. He's done pretty well for them so far. He's passing for 304 yards so far and 3 touchdowns. He's done really well with his legs as well. He's run the ball for 171 yards to pair with their running back Fernando Moya, who's done a really solid job for them. Running for 469 yards. So it really just comes down to who are going to be the key players on offense for this team, and can the defense stop a really tough AZ College Prep offense. So it really comes down to that battle of between offensive and defensive, who can get the edge there. I don't know if I'm ready to pick Vista Grande yet. They are the home team, but right now I think AZ College Prep is just a little bit too tough matchup for them. But I'll be pleasantly surprised if they're able to get that upset. But right now, I'm going to take AZ College Prep in this one, and I think that Vista Grande, while it may not be their game this time, they're going to be able to bounce back well and still have a good spot to land the playoffs in 4A come later this season.
So the thing about Vista Grande is everything you think you knew about them in those first couple weeks. Last week it was a completely different team. They went with different schemes, different personnel, and to be honest, since head coach John Roberts has taken over this team, I think I haven't been at maybe 2 to 3 games. And last week was the best I've ever seen Vista Grande play. So that's saying a lot. And on top of that, last week was also the debut for Torna Gant as starting QB. And in his game, he threw for 184 yards around there, 3 touchdowns. He was 12 of 17 passing. And the big thing here is that while he might be the starting quarterback right now, like David mentioned, Brendan Hunt is also in the mix. So, hey, they have these packages where you have both of these guys out there. You don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to pass? Are they going to hand it off to one another? And is the other one going to throw it downfield back to the other guy? Because they're capable of doing all that. So that's going to be kind of a handful for AZ College Prep to kind of just focus on that. And on top of that, they have a really strong running game. Like David mentioned here, Fernando Moya is kind of their star running back, but they have all these other options that can also run the ball. The 2 quarterbacks, you have Tion Green thrown in there into the mix, Jeremiah Wesselman, and then we've got to talk about TJ Ortega. TJ has been phenomenal at wide receiver and just building up this chemistry with both Gant and Hunt. And then the defense, we got to talk about the defense. The defense has kind of been a staple for Vista Grande this whole season. Their one loss to Prescott, it was a really close game in the end. The defense was able to I'm struggling here. The defense was able to get those stops, which allowed the offense to come back into the game. Rightfully so, we have to talk about Athian Arol. He is the main focal point for opposing teams, but because he is that focal point, that allows other guys to come in and just kind of disrupt things like Joey Alderetti, Braden Brown, Jason Villegas, Aiden Johnston. These guys are pretty much involved in every play in some manner. And then when you're talking about the backfield, you got to mention Quentin Martinez and Blaine Abercrombie. These guys just all around, hey, they're going to be swarming everywhere. They're going to be coming at you, trying to stop the run, trying to disrupt your offense. So I think AZ College Prep is going to have their hands full just with all these different looks that they're going to get both on offense and defense. So, hey, I'm expecting a pretty exciting game here. Moving on, David, what else do you have your eye on?
I'm taking a look at Santan Valley, where we have the ALA Ironwood Warriors going up against region rival Chrisman. This game kind of just comes down to how do the Warriors react to their first loss of the season. They just lost to Benjamin Franklin last week. Really tough game, a competitive game, but Benjamin Franklin is a tough opponent that they had to deal with, but they were not able to get it done. So now it just comes down to how do you get back up and how do you respond after a bad loss. They are currently ranked ninth, like we mentioned before, so this game may not necessarily move them up or down very much. Crispin is not a very strong team when it comes to the power rankings, when it comes to posing a real threat, but it does matter because ALA Armor could be compromised here after a loss. So they just have to get back to what they do best, which is hand the ball off to Aiden Williams, who's been an absolute star for them so far. He's missed a few games or missed a couple games here and there with some injuries, so they're going to have to be able to manage his workload a little bit better because they're going to need him if they have any chance of making a deep playoff run. So I'm expecting a win here, just kind of get them on the right track here and maybe get some rest with some of their guys if they're able to go out to a really big lead because they have the capabilities to score really well on offense. The defense has to keep Crispin to a very minimum amount so they can continue to have that momentum rolling. I think this is still a really solid team in the 3A conference that could surprise a lot of people, but it just comes down to beating the teams they have to beat, and Crispin is one of them absolutely, especially when they're a region opponent. I'm taking ALA Ironwood in this one and expecting them to continue to ride off and hopefully get some more wins down the rest of the schedule.
And my game to watch is Desert Sunrise. They're going to be hosting Phoenix Arcadia. This is another back-to-back, just a brutal game for Desert Sunrise, unfortunately. Arcadia is undefeated. They are 5-0 so far. And for Desert Sunrise, I really got to commend them in what they've been able to do so far. Just a second-year program, and they are under a new head coach. And just Trade Atkins at quarterback already, 663 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Amin Lamour, 473 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns. And then defensively, we got to talk about Jaziel Dominguez. He leads the team with 64 tackles. And just overall, I feel like they are trending in the right direction. Last week was brutal, that 70-7 loss to Vista Grande. And like I mentioned, Arcadia is going to be another handful for them. But hey, looking at the bigger picture here, I think these games are just going to help them kind of figure out their identity and just where they want to go as a program. Being young and just trying to establish that foundation is never easy, and taking those lumps, to get better, that's also not easy. But hey, I feel like they're trending in the right direction, and maybe in a couple years we'll be talking about them being a potential playoff contender. As always, here are our picks along with Vista Grande. We have another additional Thursday night game in Apache Junction. But other than that, hey, be sure to check us out next week to see what we have in store.